Hello guys, welcome to Major's Garage. This is Suelio Almeida. Today we're gonna do a lap here at Limerock with the Chicanes, and pretty quick track. Lap time was 50.7. It could be slightly quicker. I just wanted a very solid lap to be a good reference, but if you force a little bit more, it could be around 50.5. But of course using the same references and lines, just trying to be a little bit more on the dangerous side. So the first corner is one of the difficult ones actually, because it's a very deceiving corner. We want to turn in thinking that we turn, we get back on the throttle, and then we brake again, and then we turn again, like these are two corners. But in fact, what we want is to face them as just one corner, one big corner. So as you can see here, I brake not too hard because I immediately start turning as I'm braking. So you can see that I could brake more. I could brake like 70% if I would be on a straight line, like I would brake, for example, here. You can see that here I'm braking much more, probably 20% more. But on the first corner, I am actually braking just 50% and immediately starting to release as I turn into the corner. I want to just trail brake very long. You can see that I'm actually not getting back on the throttle because I am carrying enough speed. I'm not decreasing my speed in a way that I need to bring it up again. So that's a very common mistake here. People would brake too hard, turn in, and then get back on the throttle again. What I want to do is not decrease my speed in the first place. Sorry. So we can actually just brake less and of course try to do the widest line possible while slowly decreasing your speed with a little bit of trail braking to keep the front loaded, so it keeps turning and you don't go wide. You let the car open a little bit here, and when you start spotting that end of the curb here, this is where we want to be close to. You can get back on the throttle. So it's quite early if you do this double apex one corner approach. But you see that here I'm getting back on the throttle and then hesitating a little bit, so I lift and then I go back again. But ideally what we want is to be quite aggressive on the throttle. We don't want to do kinda like modulating too much. We want to try to go as quickly as possible to the very high throttle percentage to keep the car rotating a little bit. So you can see that ideally I want to put the car around the end of the curb. I'm actually touching the curb a little bit earlier. But if you have an eye here, if you keep an eye here, it will be better for your planning, especially because you definitely don't want to go wide here. It really spoils the next corner. So it's better to have a checkpoint here, to have a visual cue here, and then even if you hit the curb slightly earlier, you're gonna be safe. So getting back in the throttle, bring the car to the other side, not too much of course. What you want is to start braking a little bit and not immediately. You turn the car, you lift, and when you feel that you can slightly just slow down the car a little bit, not actually try to stop the car for the corner, just slow down a little bit by keeping some weight on the front. You can see that my braking here is very light. And then I wait a little bit. Ideally, we would touch the curb slightly earlier. I lost a little bit of time here on this lap, but this is a very safe approach. Ideally, again, what we want to see as a reference is the end of this curb. If you touch the car, or at least try to touch the car at the end of that curb, and you actually touch it a little bit earlier, you see that here I missed it, but you can definitely use this curb because it's completely flat. It actually helps with the grip because it's not off camber, it's at the same level of the track, you can see. So if you use that as a reference, you can get back on the throttle thinking that your car will be here. So it could be from half of the curb to a little bit later. Of course, what you want with this reference is to keep the car on the inside on the left, so you can get ready for the next one. So that's the most important thing, that you're able to basically be full throttle on this next one. I just did a little bit of correction here because the car oversteered a little bit. That's actually going to be normal because the track has a lot of grip here, but then after some time right here it starts falling a little bit. It's difficult to notice, but you definitely can feel that the car tends to oversteer after this. So you turn a lot here, and then here the car tends to oversteer. So that's why I lifted. Sometimes, especially for example, if you get more that initial curve here and have the car almost touching the white line here on entry for this last one, you will probably not need to lift, but it's still slightly twitchy, still a little bit dangerous, but ideally we want to again position our car at the end of this inside curve here. This is going to be the ideal line. So just to recap from the beginning, a very not too hard braking here, trying to carry a lot of speed so you don't need to get back on the throttle again here, and then you let the car go wide a little bit. You come back as soon as you see that end of the curve and you try to put your car there, you get back on the throttle aggressively so you can maintain the rotation, and then you let the car go wide a little bit, but being careful not to get the grass here, because you definitely need to bring the car a lot to the right. And then you lift, then you start trail braking a little bit, and you try to get the car over to this and the end of this curve. You get back on the throttle, you bring the car slightly to the left here, and again the last reference would be this, the end of this curve here. And at this part, at the end of this last corner from this, I think it's the second sector, it is slightly oversteery, so you have to be careful with that. Okay. Now for the next one, my line for the braking, I think this is the safest line in a way. Of course, there is a slight chance of hitting the grass here, but because I'm pointing towards the curb, I'm having a little bit more space for the entry here. You can see that I'm completely over the curb with my outside tires, and then it's slightly safer not to hit those curves here. They are very, very dangerous. They can actually for this first one, it can either break your right tire, or it can throw you to this grass here on the inside for the second corner, and you gotta slow down. You lose a lot of time, so it's really bad. So that's why I'm using this line here. So I'm facing a little bit to the outside, so I can brake on a straight line, and my car will naturally go over the curb. Then my throttle reference here is the first apex. I want to punch the throttle. Actually, you can see here I'm not necessarily punching all the way to 100, but I'm going quite quickly to at least 80% throttle, so I can maintain the momentum. And then I will basically go 100% for the rest of the corners. So you can basically consider this as just one corner. You want to have this great entry here, and you want to really bring the car a lot to the right after this first apex and get full throttle, and then the exit, the rest of those the two next corners will be basically almost on a straight line. Of course, you have to do a little bit of a zigzag, but it's quite easy if you get the first one right. So if the second and third are difficult, it is 100%, I'm 100% sure that the entry was not ideal. So if the entry is good, the second and third apexes will be very easy. Now for this corner, this is also a very difficult corner because you need to plan your line. It's very easy, it's very tempting to bring the car too early to the inside here, and then you find yourself on this very difficult line where you tend to go to this side, and it completely spoils your exit. So you don't want to have your car here like this. You want to have your car here. So you can do this exit like this. You want to use this exit very round and quickly, instead of carrying too much speed, going wide on this part, and then having a terrible line for the last corner. You definitely don't want that, because the speed that you're gonna carry here is actually the speed that you're going to carry through the entire straight. So it's gonna affect the lap times from this lap and from the next lap. So for that, what I want to do is from the beginning, start braking, let the car go wide. We can really see the darker line here, the rubber path. So you can see that I actually go a little bit wide. I'm actually thinking about bringing my car to this side, and then I get a little bit on the throttle here. You can use a little bit of this grass. It's quite dangerous, but it makes for a faster line. And then I want to full throttle here, not full throttle, but like trying to push the car forward before we get this second apex here. Again, you can use a little bit like that, the middle car over the curb. That's the reference. If you put the middle of the car over this, where there is still curb, you will not get enough track. But this unsettles the car a little bit. So my trick here is to upshift third as soon as I go over the bump. So let's see that. So basically, I'm decreasing a little bit of the RPM. I'm giving a little bit less power, but I'm able to be a little bit more aggressive with the throttle without being afraid of spinning. So on second gear, if you're aggressive on the throttle and you get through this last apex here, it's very dangerous. You can really spin quite quickly. So I like to upshift. Maybe for a qualifying, you may want to use the second gear, but here, this was fast. This was my fastest sector, and I was on third gear. So I think for a race pace, definitely upshifting over the last apex will be a very good idea to be safe here. And yeah, this one flat out, and that's it. Quite short track. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and see you next week. Bye.